holidays, everybody! I hope everyone has been having a wonderful holiday season so far, and will have an even better New Year's. Yee! This video is going to be a little bit different than all of my other videos, which are normally like a review or a cosplay tutorial or something, but something I've been wanting to do here on my channel is a recap video of everything that's happened over the last year. So we're finally going to do that. Let's get into everything that happened for myself as well as my company in 2025. And I'll leave this right here in case you want to skip to a certain section that I'm going to talk about. But first up is my health and my life and stuff. And if you didn't know, I had last year a surgery to remove a very large cyst that was on my right ovary, as well as many organs. I officially have stage 4 endometriosis, which is not curable. And I will always have it, I'll always have issues with it. And I've been learning to deal with that over this full year. And it's had a lot of ups and downs. I've ended up getting on a type of birth control to help with it, kind of help stabilize some of the endometriosis stuff, gotten on some anxiety and depression medicines, which was actually really helpful. Don't recommend without talking to your doctor. With those, they actually make you gain weight. So I have gained quite a bit of weight. I've had a lot of people ask if something's happened in my life. A lot of people think that I'm pregnant, which I'm not. I can't have kids. And one of the issues with endometriosis is you do get what's called an endobelly, and that's when you swell up and you basically look pregnant. And I've had a lot of rude comments, people saying that I'm fat, things like that. And that's been very stressful this year. On me. I've been trying to do some basic workout just to help build up some muscle, as after my surgery, I was not able to do any physical activity and basic walking for a long time. It took about 6 months before I could actually do any type of stretching exercises without feeling absolute pain. I also ended up getting a Tension machine and basically like zap myself almost every day where the cyst was and everything, and that's helped quite a bit. I've started to change my diet. Endometriosis reacts to any type of dairy and gluten, and those are kind of my favorite things. So I've been trying to change my diet. It's been difficult. I've cut back on soda. I'm still drinking Dr. Pepper once a day, but I've turned to the tiny little cans, and I'm drinking a bunch more tea now. But that's been like my health. And no more mean comments about that, please. I can't help that. I'm trying. I also had 2 losses this year that hit me quite hard. I lost my best friend midway through the year, as well as a few days before Christmas, my grandma passed. And I'm still kind of going through that, so it's been a little difficult over this holiday. In terms of Air Force life, my spouse is active duty in the Air Force, and we're currently stationed in Nebraska. We've been here the last 3 years, and no real plans on leaving this spot. He's in the process of potentially commissioning. Cross your fingers. If that happens, then most likely we will be moving somewhere else. If not, then we'll be staying here, but who knows, because I don't know, and sometimes I don't know until the day before. So I'll keep y'all posted on that. Only other update would be the kitties, which are doing wonderful. I love my kitties so much, and they had a wonderful little kitty Christmas where they got their stockings, and she really enjoyed all of her catnip and toys, and so did Nami, and it was wonderful. Yes, I see your paw. Good girl. And now for the studio update. And my main working studio pretty much is the same. I haven't really changed much since I first moved in here, really. I'd say in terms of equipment, I got this new little light for when I go to conventions. And then everything else is pretty much the same in here. I did end up getting a new camera lens, and it is quite a bit of a difference, especially in my latest photo shoots. And that upgrade was all thanks to my credit card points that I've been saving over a lot of years. I did have to replace my little octopus stand as it broke. Hey, Mouse. In terms of other areas, I did move a few things. My Glowforge is now over here and the sun comes in, so it's a good spot for the cat bed. As well as I did upgrade 2 new lights. And these are both newer and they are all colors. And then this one's also newer and this one's a lampshade one. This one's my favorite one. I use it in just about everything. As well as one of the biggest upgrades that I did was actually a backdrop, and we ended up installing it in the living room because I just don't have enough room anywhere else, and it's also the tallest area that we have. And that's been probably the best upgrade, honestly, just because this and the lights just make everything look so much nicer, and of course the camera. I've been able to do all of my photo shoots in front of there, all of just my basic pictures and things, and it's made everything look a lot cleaner. And especially my cosplay transformation videos where I do all the steps to get into a cosplay, I do all here, and it makes it look a lot cleaner than trying to place the door where it doesn't move. Now into the basement, and that's probably where the most changes have happened. Hang on. So this year has been nothing but 3D printers with sponsorships, and 3D printers take up a bit of room. So I did have to change a lot of my layup here in the studio, especially with power, because the power down here in this rental is not great. So there's a lot of cords going to place. So I ended up moving the bookshelf out of the storage room, and this now has all of my office supplies on it, as well as my convention stuff. And then this black cabinet I upgraded actually technically 2 years ago, but I never showed it off. And I needed this to store all of my paints with, as well as I have temperature gauges everywhere down here to make sure nothing freezes when we get negative 20 degrees. Now for the printer room, because I did end up getting 3 sponsorships from printing companies, I had to make a lot more room down here. First off is the Prusa XL, and I ended up purchasing that myself at the end of last year, and that kind of led to all of the sponsorships for this year, and I still use it. Obviously I'm using it now. And then I ended up getting one from Elegoo, the Centauri Carbon, and that one actually is my favorite one. I use that for all of my basic prototyping. It's super fast, and it's never had a fail. Then FlashForge ended up sending a printer. That one I gave to my spouse because I don't really use it, and he likes to print little trinkets on it and bring them to work. So it's getting some use. And those are all of the FDM printers. So basically, because this all took up this room, all of my resin printers had to go into a different room. And my resin printers all had to come out in this little section. And it works out pretty nice. I can keep the FDM printers away from the resin printers. I also upgraded and got the new filter to help with some of the fumes, besides the big one that's in the spray room. I do want to get another one in the future just to help, but right now it works pretty well. The larger resin printer was given by Anycubic most recently, so I've only got to use it a little bit, but it worked really well for my Angel Woman cosplay. And then the other one I just haven't really used since, just because I just haven't. I don't know. But this has been a big upgrade to the studio space. And the other big change is my fabric selection here. I used to have them all in plastic storage boxes like this, and I kept buying the same fabric because I would forget that I had it. So now I put them all on these little cardboard inserts that are meant for comic books, and they work out really nicely. I do have a little bit more down here on bolts that I got when Joann's went out of business, but that's been the biggest upgrades on the studio. And the only last part is the spray room, but nothing's really changed in there. So that's studio tour updates. In terms of conventions, I did end up guesting at 3. I did Arctic Comic Con, which, oh my gosh, was amazing. It's in Alaska. I've never been to Alaska and I want to go back. Had so much fun. It's probably one of the best conventions for guesting at that I have been at, and it had the best memories I had with going up to the top of the ski slopes and just looking out at everything. We did a glacier boat tour with all of the guests. Ended up going out and drinking almost every night, and one of the best things was actually, I never fangirl over anybody, but there's one voice actor that I really love, and he's Krunk from Emperor's New Groove. And got to talk to him a bunch at a karaoke bar and watch him do stand-up and stuff. It was a lot of fun and I would love to go back. I also guested at Anime ID in Idaho. They were wonderful, really great for cosplayers, really focused on craftsmanship, which I appreciated a lot. I got to meet Sushi, who is a part of my management team, and she is a comic book artist. Check her out, she's amazing. Also did Retro South Expo in Texas. They were a first year convention, very small, but they had a much larger turnout than what they had anticipated, which is great, which means they're gonna do a second year, so yay! For Retro South, Wizard ended up coming and I got to hang out with him throughout the convention. I also ended up going to C2E2 just as a fun convention. I did end up competing in the cosplay competition there. I didn't place, but totally fine with that, and I had a lot of fun though, because I got to see so many cosplay friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. I got to meet Honey Pro Cosplay! So happy. She's a big member here in our community and actually helped me do the size XXL female breastplate. So that whole bundle was with help from her, so thank you. And she's really great in the community. But yeah, throughout all of these conventions though, I had a lot of fun with everybody, just hanging out, drinking, of course hanging out with my manager Blake at the conventions too, so yeah. And then I also did one other thing, which was in Alaska, the Anchorage Museum. It is an art museum, and I got to, while I was there for the Arctic Comic Con convention, I got to go over there and judge their costume competition, so that was a lot of fun. And on to sponsorships this year, which there's possibly one more coming this next week. I'm waiting for it to come in. So if it makes it by the end of the year, you'll get a unboxing video. If not, then we'll see. Besides that, I ended up working with Anycubic for the resin printer, Elegoo and FlashForge for the FDM printers. I worked with Pinky Paradise again, which is a colored contact lens company, as well as one of our biggest new sponsorships is Coscom Cosplay Supply, who actually for Angel Women provided all of the Foss shape that I used for the feathers. They also are now going to be my main supplier for EVA foam, so I really appreciate their support. And I'll be continuing with them next year, which is really great, so that means you should too. Other things was I did the United States of YouTube, which basically YouTube reached out to me and they wanted to feature creators throughout the United States. And I got to be one of their featured ones for Nebraska. But I mean, I live here in Nebraska, yeah, but I'm not a Nebraskan. I've only been here for 3 years, I'm a Texan. So it was a little weird. I don't know if there's any other cosplayers featured in it, so I at least got to represent us. One of the things I did was Facebook for creators with Meta, and I did that as an ad with them. It's been posted around, but I never shared it on my platform, so here you go, but I just don't have music in it. Basically putting on makeup, turning myself into Loki, and telling you how to use Facebook for posts. So yeah. And I really appreciate my opportunity with working with all of these companies, as well as continuing working with all of my previous brands that I've been working with over the years, as this does help for me to continue doing this as my full-time job. And I really appreciate companies when they give me tooling, because big equipment is a bit pricey and it definitely helps for me creating larger things. So on to the cosplay recap, which you probably are most interested in this part. I ended up making 6 cosplays this year. I made Seth, Aqua, Magic, Dark Magician Girl, Loki, and Ange Woman. And starting off at the beginning of the year with Seth, that one I actually started in 2024 and finished it partway through 2025. And that one was a passion build of mine. I was not doing that for the community, I was doing it for me as I'm a big fan of Trinity Blood, and it actually was my 4th cosplay from the series, and maybe one day I'll do another one. That one was one that I've been wanting to cosplay ever since I started watching the show back in 2008, 2007. And it's such a big difference between what I made at the beginning to versus now. This cosplay was a lot. So much time and effort went into it, a lot of new techniques, all of the gold trim. A lot of it I did laser cut out, had to program everything, and what's not really shown to the public is all of the trim and stuff. Like, I had to cut up all of my stuff, they were this big, and I had to put them all together, and it was a whole giant mess. I'm happy with what it is, but there's a lot I would have changed on it if I just had the patience. I would have loved to hand embroider this whole thing. I just don't have the patience for that. Maybe one day. I appreciate hand embroidery that people do. I cannot do that. In terms of cleanliness, it's okay, but there definitely was some issues with cleanliness stuff where seams were coming off, which bugged me, but whatever. It was a passion build of mine. I'm happy I made it. Would I change things? If I made it again, I would, but I'm fine with it for now. Next one was Aqua from Konosuba, and it's actually the 2nd cosplay I've made. I've also done Megumin. And Aqua was a highly requested cosplay because I'd already done Megumin, and I think I did her justice. I will say though, I had a lot of people mad that I wore shorts under her skirt. I'm sorry, you're not gonna catch me at a convention not wearing shorts. We don't do that. So yeah, you're not gonna catch me in cosplay with my bum hanging out. Sorry, just not gonna happen. And then I ended up making Magic, which also was another highly requested cosplay build from the community. That one, I don't, like, in all reality, I don't know that much about Marvel stuff and Marvel Rivals. I'm trying to educate myself more, but I've just never been a huge comic fan. So that one really was a community build to help people. A lot of people really wanted help with the breastplate, and y'all went nuts for that one, so thank you for your support on that. I did like the cosplay a lot, but I did feel a bit uncomfortable just because of the endometriosis with my tummy, and you couldn't see my scars in it, but I still just felt a bit uncomfortable with where things were positioned. So it's one that I'll probably wear again. I might need to tailor a little bit with the shorts and change some of the positioning on things. One of my favorite props though I've made this year was Magic's sword, which is all foam, and I just like how crisp and clean it looks, and also that it comes apart for transportation. So I actually did fly with this one a few times. Dark Magician Girl was the next cosplay. It was a highly requested character y'all wanted me to do, and I actually really liked the outcome. The hat and the staff were my favorite parts. All of the foam parts were actually EVA foam that were laminated with fabric. It's the same technique that I used with my Gundam cosplay. Loved the cleanliness look on the whole design. I will say, and a lot of people called me out for it, the wig, yeah, I'm not happy with it either, but it's what it's gonna be because you can't fly with her wig on if I actually wanted to make it into the correct shape. It just wouldn't work. It's just a community build, it's not a passion build of mine, so I really didn't care too much. So I did a wig with some spikes. It worked. It's what it's gonna be. And the next cosplay was Loki, which actually is one of my favorite builds. I felt so powerful and sexy in it. And I never feel sexy, especially in cosplay. So that was a different feeling for me. I just felt like it photographed really well. I really hope that I'll be able to wear it at a convention at some point. I think it'll look really good with walking around and the cape flowing, as well as the horns. They're like that big. They're so huge. I really liked it. I did try a new technique with that one, which was with the breastplate. I tried a new scale technique and it worked, but I won't use that again. And I am considering remaking that part, but we'll see. I'll probably have an oh shiny syndrome and want to make something else, so I probably won't go back to it, but who knows? And then the last cosplay I made this year is Angewoman from Digimon. And this is the #1 requested cosplay I have had over the last few years because y'all are crazy about the design and wings. We know I like wings. I ended up doing a poll of all of my cosplays that I had on the list of Cosplans, and this one was by far the highest. It beat everything like way. So I ended up making it this year. I wasn't planning on making it for like another year or two. So if you voice your opinion on what you want me to make, maybe I'll make it sooner. So let me know in the comments. With Angewoman, it took longer than I anticipated. It ended up taking, I think, 20 days, and I only had anticipated it taking 2 weeks. The reason it took so long for me was I had my mom in town, so I didn't end up working on it for a good bit. And then also the stupid pink ribbon. I remade that thing 3 times. 3 times! Stupid ribbon. Oh my gosh. But I don't really ever plan on wearing that out of the house. I would not feel comfortable with a little revealing, and I have to be taped in to make sure there is no slippage of anything. I do think the photos, which I'm still currently editing, are amazing right now. And I think the little bit of videos that I have shown to the community, y'all have gone nuts over it. So thank you for your support on that. One of the biggest questions I got on that one though was the helmet. That one, the helmet, yes, I can see out of it. Underneath the horizontal part, I have slits. I actually designed in my CAD file to see out of, so yeah. Some of the other projects that I worked on this year would be doing wing harnesses. I released a small and a large pair of wing harnesses, so you can use them for any type of wings that you want. This is something that y'all have been asking for years, and I finally developed one that would be easier for the community to have access to. One of the feedbacks that I did get from many of my other wing harnesses is, in the past, I would either use carbon fiber tubing, which is not relatively available and it's more dangerous to work with, as well as CPVC pipe. And I love working with CPVC pipe over PVC. It is my favorite material. However, my European friends, it is not very available, is my understanding. So I wanted to design these with PVC in mind to reach out to that audience. So hopefully this will help you. Now I have the small and large wing harness. I have the Angewoman one, which is a basic 8 wing harness. It doesn't have to be used just for her. You can use it for any character with 8 wings. So those are the 3 of the new designs. I do plan on in the future doing other ones. So if there are other type of wings that are characters with different wings, let me know. Goal is at least 1 more wing design next year. I did do a set of 4 basic hat designs. One of my big goals that I had was setting out to do sizes small through XXL for breastplate patterns, and I was able to finish the female ones this year thanks to my friends, my family, and also members of the community. So really happy I was able to finish that, and hopefully those will help you with your next cosplay build. And then what's next for 2026? And I haven't really been planning too much. I don't typically plan too far in advance with my cosplays and things. I do a lot of oh shiny syndrome, where I see a character from a show or game or something that I like, and then I make it. So that's kind of been what I've been doing, but I would like my next build to be a passion build, which means it's not for the community, it's for me. And what that means is it's not gonna be a 2-week build, it's going to end up being more of a 2-month build or longer. I would like to make Sarah Kerrigan from StarCraft and make her one with the wings, and yes, I've been obsessing over it, and I'm actually in the process of making a life-size 3D printed version of myself. I ended up getting a scanner, scanning myself and a bunch of different files. I ended up editing the file and combining parts. It was a long process, and then I had to slice it so it would all fit on the Prusa XL printer, and now it's gonna be a week to 2 weeks of printing myself out. I plan on using that for the Kerrigan build, as I would like to use monster clay and sculpt basically everything. And then I haven't decided yet, but I'm either going to scan all of my finished sculpted pieces. I'll end up 3D printing a shell for that piece that I can then end up making a mold, silicone mold inside of it. Or I'll do the traditional method of where you make a full cast with everything. Everything is still in the process. I haven't actually started working on this. So I would like to make new shield patterns this year, so maybe some shields that are like my Final Fantasy one. I really like shields. I haven't made a lot of them, but I've always been obsessed with them. I find them really beautiful. And otherwise, the only convention I have planned going to this next year is BlizzCon, just because I did win their 2023 cosplay competition. So the reigning champ, because they haven't had one. I plan on going to their convention because I have free tickets now. Otherwise, I don't have anything in line for guesting. Guest invites have been a little bit down right now because most conventions do not want to pay cosplay guests, as well as international ones. I was getting a lot of invites last year, but a lot of political stuff happened that caused a lot of international cosplay guests from the US to not travel as much. That's unfortunate because I had 3 in line last year. So anyway, if you want to see me at a convention, write to them. Hopefully they'll want to actually pay their guest, because if you're guesting at a convention, you should be getting at least some pay. Not just me, but you too. So fight for that. You should not be working for free. But anyway, I really appreciate all of y'all's support this year, not just through the channel, but through all of my platforms. Here is a little stat of all of our followers and subscriber counts through all of the platforms, as well as here's some stats from my website of just how things have been going, which I'm pretty happy with. Again, thank you for being here. I really appreciate your support, and I hope you have a wonderful new year. As a reminder, I do take January off from my social medias to just unwind and chill, as the holiday season is a bit stressful. So see you in February with some new cosplay stuff. And a big thank you to all of my company sponsors who have supported me throughout this year, as well as all of my members here on YouTube, specifically those legendary members. That way I can continue doing this as my full-time job. And I will see you come February. So, much love, guys.